Once upon a time, a man drew a little mouse, and his animated vision enchanted children of all ages. This summer, that man will be spinning in his grave.
Oh, trust me, he has no idea. On August 13, 1997, a little show called South Park premiered on Comedy Central, created by Matt Stone and Trey Parker. On paper, it just seems like your typical adult cartoon with very lowbrow humor and fart jokes, and while that's kinda true with the earlier seasons, this show is a prime example of how to do satire and social commentary. South Park pokes fun at everything. From Scientology to people who are in their little safe spaces, South Park knows when it's the right time to do it. And for staying relevant for over 20 seasons, that's an accomplishment. That's mostly because almost every single episode of South Park is made in under 6 days. And in my humble opinion, South Park is one of the very few shows that hasn't gone stale or overstayed its welcome. Sure, the show isn't perfect, but I digress. So I guess it would be out of the blue when a South Park movie was announced.
As we near the millennium, the tools for visual effects and animation are evolving at an exponential rate. This spring, Paramount Pictures is proud to present the latest technological achievement in film animation. The top animation minds from around the world have collaborated with the top foreign animators from Japan with a budget of over $630 million to bring you the most advanced animation ever seen by the human eye.
I will do the German dance for you. It's fun and gay and tra-la-la. Hope you will enjoy my dance.
Yep, and less than 2 years after the show made its mark, a film adaptation was made known as South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. Not only is it full of profanity and completely politically incorrect, but it also goes into certain topics that are even still relevant to this day and age, such as bad parenting, censorship, and satirize the controversies of the show itself. Oh, by the way, South Park did a film way before The Simpsons did, so take that as you will. This film was also infamous by the Motion Picture Association of America, the MPAA for short. Weeks before this film's release, Matt Stone and Trey Parker were having a war between Paramount Pictures and the MPAA. Paramount Pictures wanted the film to be PG-13 so that it could garner more at the box office. Trey and Matt, of course, refused. Then there's the MPAA. They screened the film about 5 or 6 times and they would give the film an NC-17. And if your film is rated NC-17, advertisers won't market your film. But with all that aside, does the film manage to tackle its themes while maintaining to be funny? Well, let's go down to South Park as I take a look at South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. Also, this is my first rated R review, so disclaimer below. The movie starts off with Stan singing. Wait, what?
Oh, the snow's pure and white on the earth, rich and brown. Just another Sunday morning in my quiet mountain town.
I'm watching a film about 4 foul-mouthed kids, right? But in all seriousness, this movie is a musical. It's obviously parodying Broadway musicals like Les Miserables and especially 90s Disney films. Watching this again and again, I started to notice that there are 2 types of songs in this film. The first one are the songs that moves the plot along with it, and the other songs are the one that centers around the film's themes, such as censorship and scapegoating. In all honesty, the soundtrack is one of the reasons why this film is so special. In contrast to the animation, which is limited and crude looking, the music really helps that balance and does it beautifully. Each song are really well written, clever, funny, subtle, and actually thought-provoking at times. I've been listening to this soundtrack so much to the point that I use them while I'm writing my reviews. But long story short, I heavily recommend the soundtrack. It's worth it. After the first musical number, this film gets extremely meta.
Ah, screw it. It probably isn't all that good anyway. Cartman, what are you talking about? You love Terrence and Phillip. Yeah, but the animation's all crappy.
Oh, just wait till Terrence and Phillip gets rebooted as a CGI film. We see Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and Kenny sneaking into a theater to see an R-rated film titled Terrence and Phillip, Asses on Fire. For those who are unaware, Terrence and Phillip is pretty much a self-aware parody of South Park, and this movie as well, a satire on the film itself. Once upon a time after South Park hit its mark, one of the earliest criticisms for the show is that it relies too much on toilet humor to the point where critics just dismiss South Park as a show nothing but fart jokes. And thus, Terrence and Phillip were born as a response to critics.
You're an asshole, Phillip.
What? Young man, you are not to watch that show anymore. It's immature toilet humor.
So the film starts and the madness begins.
Shut your fucking face, Uncle Fucker. You're a cocksucking ass licking Uncle Fucker. You're an Uncle Fucker, yes it's true. Nobody fucks uncles quite like you.
Out of all the songs in this movie, none of it will compare to this when I almost pissed myself. Originally, the song was going to be completely different, but the MPAA wouldn't allow it. And Matt and Trey pretty much responded with,
Dear Hollywood. Specifically, Dear MPAA. Fuck you. P.S. Fuck you.
They pretty much made it more funnier and dirtier every time the MPAA rejects something. While the song is complete utter nonsense and goes way over the top, this song does indeed have purpose. It shows how kids can be really impressionable by mocking and looking up to something. I mean, think about your favorite comic book, anime, or video game character that you really look up to as a kid. You want to be like them. Although, if your child says that they find Eric Cartman as a hero/role model, I would be legitimately concerned.
That's a bunch of crap. Kyle's mom is a Jew.
Oh, okay, hon.
After being amazed from the movie, they pretty much told all the kids of South Park, and every kid sees the film. The next day at school, everyone is singing before Mr. Garrison comes in, and then this happens.
Anyone? Come on, don't be shy.
I think I know the answer, Mr. Garrison. Shut up, fat boy. Hey, don't call me fat, you fucking Jew.
Eric, did you just say the F word?
Jew? No, he's talking about fuck. You can't say fuck in school, you fucking fat ass.
Kyle!
Why the fuck not?
Eric!
Dude, you just said fuck again.
Stanley!
Who?
Kenny!
What's the big deal? It doesn't hurt anybody. Fuck, fuckity, fuck, fuck, fuck.
How would you like to go see the school counselor?
How would you like to suck my balls?
What did you say?
I'm sorry. Actually, what I said was... How would you like to suck my balls, Mr. Garrison?
I got nothing. This movie broke me. The boys get sent to the school counselor and all of their mothers shows up.
What the heck is a rim job?
Oh, why, that's when you put your legs behind your head and have someone lick your ass.
Meanwhile at lunch, Stan asks Chef how to win Wendy's heart.
Guy?
Oh, that's easy. You just gotta find the clitoris.
Huh?
Oops.
What does that mean, find the clitoris?
Because true love, of course.
So, because the boys discover about enhancing their sentences, they are sent into a rehab center with Mr. Mackey on how not to use foul language, and he even sings a song about it.
Now you're cured. You can take the rest of the afternoon off for personal reflection, okay? Find your own constructive way to better yourself, okay?
Nope! After rewatching the film, Cartman dares Kenny to light a fire with his ass, and it works for about 2 seconds, of course.
Holy shit, dude! Oh my god! Ah, shit! Ah, shit! Help! Somebody do something! Ah, this stick is on fire! Oh my god! You killed Kenny! You bastard!
Kenny gets rushed into the hospital by the most incompetent doctors ever, voiced by, I kid you not, George Clooney. Kenny dies and we see him going into hell with some really bizarre CGI that's a bit out of the uncanny valley. Then again, that was most likely intentional. When he arrives in hell, he is confronted by everyone's favorite Disney princess, Satan, who has a homosexual love affair with Saddam Hussein. Meanwhile, the parents come to a PTA meeting and Kyle's mom Sheila forms a group called Mothers Against Canada, or MAC for short. Mothers Against Canada is essentially the equivalent to 1 Million Moms. You know, the same organization that wants the Loud House ban by showing a same-sex couple for just mere seconds and believe that Nickelodeon was just doing that to push a quote-unquote agenda. When South Park came out, it was no surprise that kids would watch it. I mean, let's face it, if your show is animated, of course kids are going to discover and watch it. But despite that, the Christian Family Network made an educational guide called, and I kid you not, Protect Our Youth from Vile Trash Like South Park. Yes, instead of talking with your children, they decided to put the time and effort on an educational guide. You want to hear another story? Beavis and Butthead. In 1993, a mother blamed MTV because her 5-year-old son used a cigarette lighter, not only burned down his mother's home, but it killed his 2-year-old sister as well. The mother blamed the network for allowing Beavis and Butthead chanting the words fire, fire. Never mind that the mother should have had the lighter in a more reserved place. Because of this, MTV pulled the episode to the point where the show writers can't use the words fire anymore. That is until its short revival in 2011. When censorship hits, it hits hard. And if there's one thing, and I mean one thing that South Park absolutely hates, it's definitely censorship. Then we get, which many consider to be the best song in the entire movie.
Should we blame the government or blame society?
Or should we blame the images on TV?
No! Blame Canada! Blame Canada!
Out of all the songs in this movie, this one is definitely the most patriotic.
Did they just abandon their own baby?
This scene, while subtle, perfectly shows that some parents rather protest to protect Americans' youth rather than, you know, important stuff like seeing what's going on in their children's lives.
My boy Eric once had my picture on his shelf, but now when I see him it tells me to fuck myself.
Ah, yes, because Cartman was such a total innocent angel before.
Also, pay attention to this particular line.
We must prevent the cause of us before somebody thinks of blaming us.
This is the point where this went from a great film to an amazing film. This pretty much shows how desperate some parents can be by looking for scapegoats, such as movies, TV, video games, music, the government, or whatever, instead of taking responsibility for their failures as bad parents. So we cut to Terrence and Phillip being interviewed on Conan.
Some people claim that your Canadian humor is nothing but immature fart jokes.
That's not true. Take this classic Canadian joke, for instance. Excuse me, Terrence. Yes, Philip? Good one, Philip. Cheers. Cheers, fuckface.
Guys, you can't say that on TV.
Ah yes, the 7 dirty words that you can never say on television. Oh wait.
I am the head of this network, and I will say shit all I want. Shit, 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 shit.
Suddenly, the Mothers Against Canada group forced the United States Army to arrest Terrence and Phillip. Guys, I don't think you can actually do that. This has caused the United States and Canada having a feud against one another.
What say you, Mr. American Ambassador?
Fuck Canada!
Fuck you, buddy!
Terrence and Phillip will not be released. They are going to be put on trial for corrupting America's youth.
In response, Canada goes all Pearl Harbor and bombs the Baldwins. Then the United States responded by executing Terrence and Phillip and declaring war on Canada. And this was all started from an R-rated film. Yes, this is exaggerated beyond all in belief. I mean, the government wouldn't be this stupid to declare war over a movie. Well, at least not in the United States. We cut to the playground where we see our next musical number, where Cartman is calling Kyle's mom a bitch. This song is pretty self-explanatory.
What? Fuck.
Because Sheila got fed up with Cartman's childish behavior, they held a meeting in the town hall where they introduced the V-chip and put it on Cartman. Anytime Cartman attempts to swear like a sailor, the device will shock, or better yet, censor him as punishment. Usually V-chips is something that is installed in a television set so that parents can watch and censor scenes based on that television program's rating. Sounds simple, right? Well, not really. According to a survey in 2004 by the Kaser Family Foundation, that only 15% of parents have used the V-chip, 20% know that they have a V-chip but never used it, 26% of those who don't have a V-chip installed on their television, and 39% of those who have a V-chip but didn't know about it. Keep in mind, the V stands for violence, as implying that watching violence on TV causes viewers to do violence. Yes, it's bullcrap, I know. Aside from being such a waste of money of spending $500 million to teach parents on the V-chip, but it also infringes rights, like censoring stuff what people watch on TV, and pandering to the unoffended. It's no wonder why so many people consider it a failure. In 2007, the FCC did an analysis of the V-chip, and to quote, "Based on the studies and surveys conducted to date, we believe that the evidence clearly points to one conclusion. The V-chip is of limited effectiveness in protecting children from violent television content. In order for V-chip technology to block a specific category of television programming, such as violent content, it must be activated. However, many parents do not even know if the television sets in their households incorporated this technology, and of those who do, many do not use it." Meanwhile, we see Kyle try to do a failed attempt for standing up in front of his mother.
Canada will no longer corrupt our children!
Mom, can I talk to you for a second?
Kyle, what are you doing here? You are grounded. Now get back to the house and stay there. You too, Stanley.
Mom, we think you're going too far. You can't kill Terrence and Philip.
We must fight for our children's futures.
You started a war. You have to stop it.
To make them safe again.
Hello?
Our children are precious.
Hello?
We must make a stand now.
You see, this is why moral guardians have a pretty bad reputation. They are so focused on protecting all the children instead of, well, you know, their own children. Kids are gonna get dirty someday, whether it's swearing or worse, puberty. And what makes matters worse nowadays is that it can be more than just swearing. I mean, these are the people why some of the Looney Tune cartoons are either censored or banned on television, or how about those who wrote letters to Hasbro because they thought that one of the writers for My Little Pony was making fun of disabled children, despite that said writer had a child who was disabled. God only knows what happens if Disney gives Elsa a girlfriend. Then we get our next song called What Would Brian Bontano Do? This song is fantastic. It has an amazing energy to it. I never heard of Brian Bontano before this movie, but what I find surprising is that this is one of the very few times that South Park embraces a celebrity rather than mocking it, and I'm not gonna lie, it's actually a huge breath of fresh air. Meanwhile, we have a subplot in Hell, and we see the relationship between Satan and Saddam Hussein. We see that, which is supposed to be a parody of the Seven Seals, if Terrence and Philip are killed by Americans, Satan will bring his troops up on Earth and rise.
I love when you get all biblical, Satan. You know exactly how to turn my crank.
I don't think God himself finds that sexy. But seriously, Satan is one of the most sympathetic characters in this film. You just can't help but feel sorry for him and his awful relationship with Saddam, because all that Saddam wants with him is sex. Also, Satan is one of the very few characters that barely swears. I mean, aside from the word shit, he's almost clean. Then Satan gets his own song called Up There. You see, Satan wants something more, and wants to know what it's like on Earth instead of being alone on Hell. Wait a minute. Holy crap, this is a Disney I Want song. I was right all along. Satan is a Disney princess. And the song, I'm not gonna lie, is beautiful.
Don't you have that warm, fuzzy feeling when you feel bad for the devil?
We see the boys on the computer setting up their own secret meetup at a warehouse. Then at Cartman's house, we see him about to go to sleep, but a wild Kenny's ghost appears, warning Cartman about Satan and Saddam Hussein's uprising. So, Kenny can be a ghost now. How? This does seem like I'm nitpicking, but it kinda comes out of nowhere. I mean, could you imagine if Kenny's ghost appeared in some episodes? Meanwhile, we see all the adults of South Park join the United States Army. Their plan is to have a big show on stage, then they'll execute Terrence and Phillip and go straight into war against Canada.
After the show, we will finally be sending ground troops into Canada. So let's strategize. Map! Our sources have told us that the Canadians are preparing for our invasion, so we must use caution. Each battalion has a specific code name and mission. Battalion 5, raise your hands. You will be the all-important first attack wave, which we will call Operation Human Shield.
Hey, wait a minute!
That's the thing when two nations go at war with each other. It doesn't matter whether the issues are vague, at the end of the day, all that matters is to protect the country and defeat the opposing nation. Racist much? Well, you would be correct.
It's fucking Windows 98! Get Bill Gates in here! You told us Windows 98 would be faster and more efficient with better access to the internet!
It is faster, over 5 million...
This is relatable on so many levels. At the warehouse, we see Kyle and Stan setting up the meetup, and then this happens.
You guys, something happened. I don't think Kenny is dead. What? I saw him in my room.
I know, Cartman, I know. I see Kenny every day.
You do?
Sure, dude. On the face of every child. On the smile of every baby.
Hey, I'm telling you, this was Kenny. He said that if Terrence and Phillip die, Saddam Hussein and Satan are gonna come up and rule the world.
Saddam Hussein?
Okay, hold up. Did Kyle just suddenly believe Cartman? Cartman, the racist, anti-Semitic, aggressive, narcissistic kid is being somewhat trusted. Just what? The rest of the kids show up, including Wendy and Gregory. Ah, yes, I haven't mentioned Gregory, have I? I haven't really talked about Stan's subplot, mostly because it's really not that all important in terms of plot. Basically, Stan is jealous of a kid that Wendy likes, so Stan tries to be all political towards her. I get that it's supposed to be growth for Stan's character, but I honestly don't care about his relationship with Wendy. Although I will say, if you watch the later episodes after this movie, it gets really awkward, let me tell you that. With all the kids here, they all plan out a strategy to free Terrence and Phillip, and then we get our next and possibly my absolute favorite song in the entire film. It's a reprise of almost all the songs in this movie. Not only is it epic and uplifting, but it definitely shows how grand this film is.
I cut your dick in half and serve it to a pig. And then hurts you laugh and dance a dickless jig. But that's the way it goes. And while you're sat upon the beside,
I want to
Loris
be
Stars lives on.
Gregory tells the boys to get a kid named the Mole. A kid for some reason has issues with God. He agrees and they all head off to the USO show. Back in hell, Satan threatens Saddam Hussein by leaving him, but because of the power of musical numbers, which is kind of funny, he gives in. The boys and the Mole hurry to the USO show, which has a huge musical number with Big Gay Al and ping pong balls. Fun stuff, I'm assuming.
Men, when you're out there in the battlefield and you're looking into the beady eyes of a Canadian as he charges you with his hockey stick or whatever he has, and people are dying all around you, just remember what the MPAA says. Horrific, deplorable violence is okay, as long as people don't say any naughty words. That is what this war is all about.
That's the sad truth. At this day and age, there are like more violence in PG-13 films than rated R films, and that's what ticks with a lot of filmmakers when confronting with the MPAA. You want an example? In 2011, a film called Bully, a movie that deals with certain touchy topics, got an R simply because the amount of profanity used in it. Because of the rating, schools can't show it to its target audience of middle and high schoolers. The director refuses to recut the film because he believes it would be watered down, which I wholeheartedly agree, although the Weinstein Company reduced the amount of profanities in order to get its PG-13 rating. Another example? An independent film called Soldiers Insane that had no nudity, barely any sex, little amounts of violence and profanity, and the film was given an R simply because a character was shot and killed, to which they changed the scene in order to get its PG-13 rating. When Matt and Trey made this movie, it was sent to the MPAA about 6 times, and hearing about it from them is just absolutely ridiculous.
When we submit the South Park movie, they gave it an NC-17, and we're on the phone and there's some Paramount higher-ups on the phone and they're like, okay, to the MPAA, now can you tell us why it got an NC-17? They're like, yes, starting with this shot here,
1, 2,
you
3,
can cut
4
this
list,
here.
yeah.
Starting with this shot here, you could move this, take this shot out, replace this word with this and do that and we can probably get you your R.
Yeah, it's
and we were
fucking
like,
scary.
what the f***? Because, and that's really what's scary is the MPAA is in bed with all the studios and they all have this relationship and it's a very important relationship, but the independent filmmakers are the ones that just get because they don't care, they can just say NC-17.
Yeah. Before the South Park movie, the duo made Orgasmio, a film that spoofed on porn movies. The film was given an NC-17 from the MPAA. Despite that there was almost no nudity or sex aside from a dildo, they couldn't cut anything out or recut it because they didn't have the money for it, and the film forever stayed NC-17. So if you're wondering why they haven't made a sequel to this film, you know now who to blame. Have I not mentioned how inconsistent the rating system has been? I mean, how about Disney and Pixar films? Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame, that is considered by many to be one of the darkest Disney movies ever made, that contains themes such as lust, genocide, damnation, and aspects of religion, is rated G. But hey, as long as there isn't a nipple shown, it's a-okay, right? Pixar's Inside Out is rated PG just because characters get angry at each other and a character finds a dead mouse in her own home. Or how about Frozen, that is also rated PG because of
Foot size? Foot size doesn't matter.
like, what even? I heavily suggest that you check out the Nostalgia Critic's editorial, Does PG Mean Anything Anymore?, in which he goes into further detail about how the rating system is so incoherent and how it can really screw up independent filmmakers. It's just amazing that he released this video during the writing of this review. But enough of me ranting. The mullet attempts to free Terrence and Phillip, but because Cartman didn't set up the alarm, he is chased down and eventually killed by guard dogs. Beware the mole, I barely even know you. They all head down towards the show to have them not kill Terrence and Phillip, or otherwise Satan and Saddam Hussein will rise. They of course refuse, and all of a sudden the Canadians start attacking. Also, Stan find the clitoris, but that isn't important right now. All the kids' mothers are distraught by the events that are happening and pretty much abandon Sheila to rescue their kids.
This is what we wanted! We wanted our children to be brought up in a smut-free environment! But we didn't want this! Where are you going? We're going to find our boys. For God's sake, Sheila, we're going to get them killed!
And at this moment, Sheila realized she fucked.
Holy shit, dude! Young man, you watch your mouth!
Or not. Then, as predicted, all hell breaks loose. Like, literally. Then we get our climax of the film, which is a huge non-stop Deus Ex Machina. Because Cartman has been on the V-chip since the middle of the film, it then malfunctions, and now all of a sudden he can pretty much use it to defeat Saddam.
Hi, buddy. I know I was mean before, but don't worry. I can change. Oh. Okay. Not.
Fuck, shit, cock, ass, titties, burner, bitch, muff, pussy, cock, butthole, Barbara Streisand!
While yes, this is completely out of nowhere and awesome at the same time, it does further on the theme about fighting against censorship. Then Satan has enough of Saddam's crap and throw him back into the pits of hell. With Saddam out of Satan's life, he thanks Kenny and grants him one wish. He wished that everything goes back to normal before the whole American-Canadian war thing, even though this means that Kenny will not be in the living. Oh, remember when I mentioned Beavis and Butthead?
Thank you, Kenny. Yeah, thanks for going back to hell for us. You're a real pal. Goodbye, you guys.
Yes, that was creator Mike Judge himself who voiced Kenny. Suddenly, this makes a whole lot of sense now. Everything goes back to normal, we have a reprise of the first song, and Kenny goes into heaven.
And that was South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, and by gosh, was it ahead of its time.
Not only this film is outstandingly hilarious, a fantastic soundtrack, and one of the best adaptation films I have ever seen, and probably the most politically incorrect film ever, but this is a big cautionary tale on the dangers of censorship, and some parents will blame on something rather than taking responsibility for their own failures. And with the internet becoming bigger and bigger every day, we've been getting bills trying to censor it as security. And considering the current state of YouTube right now, this could lead to a big problem. If you're a fan of South Park, you'll most likely saw it and love it. And even if you aren't a huge South Park fan, I still recommended it. A lot of the jokes are really subtle and great. That is, as long as you're not offended, of course.
So that was my third review. Probably the hardest review I ever written. But you know, I think I'm ready for what comes in my way. So, what's next on my next agenda?
Are you okay? Of course I am. Nothing can stop Scorch Supernova. Whoa! That was amazing!
Off!